In churches around the world today, Christians have just celebrated the festival of Pentecost and listened to readings from the book of Acts and the Gospel of John which describe how the gift of the Holy Spirit came to those first disciples, how it influenced and led them to speak to the people of all nations and, ultimately, to found the church that we have inherited. The gift of the Holy Spirit then gave the disciples the ability to converse with people of many nations, of all the nations, indeed, and hence the capability for the gospel message, the good news of Jesus, to travel around the world. But it's not always travelled easily. For all time there have been times and places where the gospel message can become confused, where the central Christian command to love one another can become diluted or sidelined, relegated in favour of some other moral or social imperative that is deemed more important. And it's not a new challenge. Since the time of Paul, the first apostles going out and proclaiming the gospel, Jesus' story has had to compete with others as a claim to the truth. And whilst the precise nature of the battleground will shift, the existence of the tension will not. You can scarcely read a newspaper today without there being at least one story relating to what some have now dubbed the culture wars, where competing ideas of how we should treat one another are being fought out. It's not a clear-cut distinction, of course, but it seems that the line is drawn somewhere between, I think identity politics, liberalism and critical theory on one side, and for want of a better phrase, what I'll call conservative traditionalism on the other. The quieter forces, that quintessential British staid glance aside at faddish ideas, it's slowly being tested, and it's not entirely unreasonable to expect the church to have something to say about it. Surely, naturally even, one might expect the church to have something to say about how humans should relate to one another. I think part of the problem is a lot of the very challenging questions being asked are not quite the right shape for an authentic Christian answer. The guidance of the Holy Spirit can help us, but we still have to do the groundwork. And, of course, no one single person can speak for the whole church anyway. I still think we've got to do the groundwork, though, and address underlying assumptions and not fall into the trap of accepting the ideologies of, for example, identity politics. We really don't have to accept the premise that the world is made up of opposing groups of people, of the oppressor and of the oppressed. We can reject that at source. And when we do, that gives us an opportunity. That gives us the opportunity as Christians to reshape the conversation by encouraging the world around us to ask the right sorts of questions. You see, Christians will want to have a discussion about human identity which focuses as most important on those things that we hold in common, rather than increasingly long lists of things that might divide us. And at the same time, the Christian concern for truth will be trying to distinguish between those false stereotypes and images and those areas of human interaction which are, quite frankly, rather assisted by the practical wisdom of past generations. We, as Christians, would want to be discussing how we constructively promote the dignity of each and every single person as a living embodiment of the God that has created them, whilst also protecting them from harm and danger from those that might not have so honourable an intention. And as a result, when we find ourselves today confused and conflicted and unsure of on the ground upon which we walk, and how we should respond to some of the newer ideas bouncing around us, we might choose to remember those first apostles. We might choose to remember them gathered in a room, scared and afraid, the Lord having come and gone again, and then for them to receive that Holy Spirit, in the confidence that where it led them to proclaim the gospel with confidence and with vigour and to discern the truth, so it also can lead us if we let it. To find with the benefit of that guidance the way that we can treat each other with the love and the compassion of the living God who resides within us.